What's up, yo? Suppity yup, 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 yup. Just thought I'd start out with this. Let me get out of the way. That's fine. In the past, I've talked about this location right here in Damodar Kund, which is the location that the shalograms originate from, and I've talked about how this is a bit odd and looks like a shallogram. Maybe I can just pull up. Where did I put it? Here. Oops. That's not what I meant to pull up. Where is it? I was trying to pull up the actual post. Sorry, guys. Anyway, maybe it's still open here. Just essentially trying to do like this. That's all. Just trying to zoom in on this one. So I was looking here, and if you look here, you can kind of see like a line across, and then these kind of a sharp point, and then these things going on. And then over here, this with this region, and I've talked about how this here is very shallogram-like, and this overall, and that's pretty much the depth that I've noticed with this region. But then today I was engaging in conversation, let's say, with geologists who just basically feel that this is meritless. And I was like, what? Basically, like, how do we explain this? How are we going to explain this? Pointing out this picture, and then that's when I noticed, wait a minute, there's this right here. I noticed this. Like, wait a minute, like that right there is part of this structure, like the way it bends. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, it keeps going out here. Across here, there's another one here. Wait a minute, another really up here. And then even down from here through here, generally across here, to a point where I arrived at this, that there's a current from this way, and then just this structure present in the rock, which is so back to that post. So then I just put some feet, like this one reminds me kind of how this is, with a larger circle, smaller circle kind of thing going on. Also, just this in general is worth noting, because generally it's not visible on something like this. This one I put in because it especially shows this kind of feature over here. I know this is going this way, but I was thinking maybe like there's kind of like a sphere here that's like between this and this kind of, this system is generally correlated to this location in some way that is not necessarily immediately apparent, not as much to this exact location, but actually to here. Okay, so there's that. But then, so I started posting it. Shaligram, Shaligram, on the road to This is noteworthy, this specifically, that there is this thing here, there is this thing here. Basic, and then a one below as well, above and below, so like a mirroring, so kind of like this X thing going on. And then there's just that again. But then down here I posted some additional pictures. These are from the magnetic anomaly maps, so we see a similar type of structure here, especially coming this way, with a cross current type of thing going on. So there seems to be some kind of cross current. It's probably related to this current that's like partially going this way and partially dividing down here, being divided by this current coming in this way, dividing this current at a point where some of it goes past it and cycles into here and down through here. Another location. So this is going to be really relevant actually to Baja BC stuff, but I'm not talking about Baja BC stuff, so never mind. I was watching Baja BC stuff, but I wasn't intending to talk about it now. I was going to talk about, like, there's hair in my mouth, but it's like my long ass hair. I was going to talk about this place, which I figured I should have mentioned now that I kind of listened to it. But anyway, so here's another magnetic field type thing. Notably right here is Mount Stewart. And then Vancouver Bay, I think it's called, in this region. Salish Bay. Salish Bay. Sea. Salish Sea. This region is directly in line with Mount Stewart, which then, interestingly, just follows down here to this, like, straight line segment here, down through here to Yellowstone, which is what's going on here, down from that Salish Sea past Mount Stewart, which is at this point, which actually has a larger circle around it. Maybe even like a ammonite like extended structure here. Actually, I do see it. People don't believe that it's there. They're just not, it's so off people's radar that they just assume it doesn't make sense. I had this long conversation with geologists today where they're like, how can you say that ammonites are not fossils? By the way, I thought I only mentioned shalograms, but it turns into an ammonite discussion because that's what they're more familiar with and more like trying to defend. And I'm like, well, those are also not fossils. And I point out this location. I'm like, also not fossils because look right here. And they're like, it's not there. It's not, I don't see it. What do you mean? What do you mean there's an ammonite right here? What do you mean? I don't see it. I don't see it. What do you mean there's an even bigger ammonite right here? That even goes out like this, and out like this, and out like this, and out like this, then out like this, and down over here. Like, what do you mean? Don't be silly. And just a row. And then I'm like, well, okay. There's fucking ammonite under Australia, dude. Alright? Right the fuck there. You see it? Do you not? What do you mean there's no ammonite there? That's not an ammonite. That's not an ammonite. What? That doesn't have even over here, even right here, the curvatures. Oh no, not an ammonite. Even here, maybe like subtly. Not an ammonite. No. It's like, well, if you just deny that which is, I mean, what am I to do? That's a sad experience I have. Also, handbag. Anyone interested in that topic? It's a handbag. And also the bird, Gobekli Tepe bird handbag combo, Sarastra bird head with its legs that go and rest upon the Himalayas because it's energetically connected to them. Okay, so this one. So maybe I think it's so he said it when Nick Zentner, who was talking about paleomagnetic data, mentioned that Mount Stort, as it moved north, rotated clockwise, which makes sense if it's like running along a resistance but moving north, that it's just like rolling off of it pretty much and rotating. I'm not sure what to make of its shape. It's in like a hook shape. I don't know where the paper is anymore. I'm just all over the place. Oh my god, guys. My new video. My new video. I couldn't even turn it into an animation because it was too long. So I had to physically record the screen because it wouldn't render the video. And my computer crashed twice. I was like, ah, I gotta figure something out. So then I physically just recorded it. But this video, no one who has like I have forced it upon, let's say, which may be my own fault, has reacted positively to it. But it is fucking incredible. I actually learned things by the happenstance of making it. Let's see if I can find it. Earth's undercurrents. But I just want to pull up. So generally, I just started tracing the currents. Which, by the way, this I've been looking into younger Dryas. I didn't mean to like align quite so well with the younger Dryas as I did here, but I realized after the fact that it does. It's nice to see. I was thinking that what happens with the younger Dryas is very closely related to this, where this current goes underneath, beneath an ancient ocean. Let me move me. Beneath the ancient ocean that Atlantis was within, and boils it pretty much and causes it to cycle. But then in the process, like literally pushes the atmosphere away, maybe enough to like bring really cold air in and like expedite the process of just creating like a glacier environment once the magma starts to like not quite flow as directly into boiling it as much, and then like something's going on where it basically maybe it rises high enough above sea level by this undercurrent because it was below sea level, and then it lifts out of something's going on making it look like glaciers. I'm not even sure that it requires actual glaciers. It may just be that it was physical heat with a body of water above it. I'm not sure if this matches some of the data. It may be that the data just simply doesn't match with this, and it did truly have like some step in the process that caused this water to solidify. But I was just thinking that maybe it's possible that with a sufficient amount of like boiling underbelly heat from this magma that is exchanging heat with it, so like as this current goes, it begins to solidify as it exchanges heat with the water above, which then causes the water to boil and evaporate pretty much and just start to cycle, where then it goes up in like large amounts of water that the clouds just cannot hold, and they just dump it, and it just cycles in the region to a point where it's actually creating like intense currents of water that then have the same or such a similar appearance as glaciers that we have interpreted them to be glaciers. And then since like what remains has frozen and become glaciers because they're not flowing like that anymore, to a point where we just look at it and assume glaciers. I don't know if that's what's going on. I've considered it a possibility. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway, but anyway, this video is fucking bomb diggity because there's so many moments where I'm just like, boom. I know people don't understand it, but like just tracing. Maybe I'll just watch it. Let's just watch it. Why not? Let's just watch it. I'll try to read it. Earth's undercurrents. Actually, I can't even watch it here. Let's watch it on YouTube. I don't know how to quickly change the play speed. It's impossible to watch this at 1 times speed and actually comprehend what I'm saying. It's hard to even follow it at 0.75 times speed. Like, it's hard for me to follow it, but like if I did it slower, it would be kind of like. Anyway. All continental crust was conjoined as a single landmass. I guess I don't need to pause it. The mantle was punctured in Pakistan here. Magma flowed out in all directions beneath the crust. Earth's rotation, curved currents emitted preferentially, which I've maybe miswrote a little bit. A narrow stream flowed against the rotation eastward, while the bulk current fanned out westward. And the way I do this is it's like it's immediately apparent I am following the blue outlines. That's what I aim to like immediately and continuously make apparent so that it doesn't even really need to be explained. These are the low magnetic anomalies where there's just not as much magnetism versus where there's more magnetism, which I've basically been describing as where currents flowed versus where currents mounded materials by flowing in the region and pushing materials like between adjacent currents that then led to the pink regions. So current flowed here. So immediately we're running into something, but this comes up later. So I just kind of go right atop it, bloop. So that's already something that someone who's watching this might be like, wait a minute, even though I literally explain it in like 5 minutes. and out. So it fans out and out beneath Europe. The coastlines had not yet formed. The current flowed beneath an ancient ocean. Heat exchange cooled magma rapidly. Then a support structure formed. A leading wall formed, which ended up being here. Especially visible there still. And then westward currents induced a backstop because they filled the pressure that way, which then supported a current against the rotation of the Earth because it's harder to go against the rotation. And the current deflected from the western North America boundary. So this like leading wall that just formed causes a deflection, at least in part. I think this current like carves through it in ways, but it's very complex and there's much to it. But significantly, like the majority, at least in the final record, it's hard to say. Maybe initially it went more this way. But essentially it went this way, traveled northward. We can already, I think I should have put it more there. More there. But essentially it comes across past the boundary that formed by running underneath the ocean, and then it physically wraps around, which then generally begins to form this structure throughout the process. Also, this is happening throughout the process. And then it flows across under Asia. A portion filled a region between currents. So between this current and this current, this space got filled. So my thought is initially it flowed over here, but it just wasn't really balanced. So it came over to a balance point of around here. And in so doing, it came straight down basically and divided. So it was a balance point where this current divided this way, one section that filled this spot and then divided this way. Probably very closely related more to just where the mantle puncture hole is. It flowed in atop it so that it could kind of divide from its current with a degree maybe of that it's like off center pressure because of the rotation of the Earth. So the mantle puncture hole pressure, which is down here, is generally pushing up this way, like filling especially in here, which is related to this feature over here, which I come back to in this video. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I mean, I know it doesn't look scientific, but it's hard to fucking make this like what people want it to be. It's good enough. It explains the concepts. It gets the concept across. What do people want? I don't know what people want. It's what I want in other lives. I don't know. I want to be entertained with this backflips and cartwheels. I don't know. And then the Siberian traps were induced, so I just casually started like dropping in. Oh, by the way, this as this current's flowing, it's making some, and only some. One of the side effects of listing this is now I've like implied a limitation to it when it really literally shaped the entire Earth. Everywhere on Earth was influenced by this current, these currents flowing, or this current flowing out in all directions. North terminal forming. So like basically once it fills in that region above in Asia, in essence, once the current wraps around North America, then fills in Asia, fills in around this terminal thing, then it basically has to go down this way. which is over further. I think it's more over here, actually. I think it's actually more around here at the time, physically relative to things. Unclear what happened in this region. I think it might have been a lot of new, like, accreted near the end of the process kind of things going on. I certainly see a snake head here with like a neck back this way, a mouth kind of here, eyeball. It's just something that is commonly in occurrence. I know people are like, what in the fuck, snakehead end? Yeah, dude, it's in the currents. It's everywhere. Look at the earth. Oh, me. Oh, me. Its boundaries, then pushed the boundaries of North America. Flowed through it, though. Like, it got past that leading wall. That's a critical aspect of it, that this current is able to flow into this region. Which is why I guess it's like going this way. It's going past this boundary. Then it's flowing over here, which then from here, I don't say it explicitly, then went directly under conjoined South America. I don't say it explicitly. It went from here to here. There was no like gap between the two. This was here. I just hope that people understand that's what I'm saying. Although people who are just like in a combative mode will just like find anything to not understand and not understand it by like intent. Like, what am I not understanding by intent? What is it? Fanning out in a low pressure region. So because the whole northern half of the planet had this current especially flow in it, it then begins to flow down into the other half, where once it passes the boundary here, it flows out into this like way more lower pressure. Like, this current was flowing over here, this from the westward current to a degree, but it really seems to have been somewhat entrapped by the boundary, so that it only had like a portion of current here that was really going more so just directly out here into like Australia and up this way. So I don't know if it really extensively got into this region, maybe here, and which is partly why this like divided. Because northern South America has an undercrust that seemingly was left behind up here. I know it's kind of drawn over, so you gotta just believe me and good luck with that, I guess. We're getting to it. Fanning out in the low pressure region. We're gonna get to what I was talking about, I swear. Like a flame. I know I'm kind of just like showing this arbitrarily. At least I can do a little bit of a voiceover. Feeding beneath Africa's crust. So this is, I didn't really quite notice this until things like this I didn't quite notice until I started to really outline it. Like, it looks almost like dendritic, like a ammonite has like cross current things going on. Then where it interacted, so this current's coming across from under South America into Africa, beneath Africa, but then it's running into this current, and we notice it's coming up this way and branching around here, and then at this like past the divide point, pretty much past here, anything up here starts to deflect down this way. And then in Saudi Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula region, there's this sort of like boundary where this current comes in and runs into this current coming this way, and they kind of just, one goes this way one goes this way. But then this current, just like the the other current that divided above the mantle puncture hole, leading into the magnetic anomaly and so on, the two spirals, that current, same way as that divided, this current is divided down this way, so it goes down here, or down, I think specifically down here, and then in through here, and this way, and also probably down here, depending on what time. Like, I think it does this later on, so maybe once the earth expands, it's initially it was more able to flow down the coastline, but once the earth expanded, it started to go through this way, which is probably why it rifted. It's the East African rift, because it was the same process that was flowing down the coastline, creating the coastline over here, and then it just started flowing in here because the earth expanded, so the angle that this was deflected was just not the same. So then it ended up flowing in here, and then just creating this like rift zone. Not rifting, but creating a rift zone. Okay, so where it interacted with the current from under Europe, dividing it, so it goes down here. I know the colors are kind of lacking. My bad. It's hard to put colors over this that actually are visible and so on. This one's orange, this one's red, but they're practically the same. So it makes it a little confusing. But if you notice the red one, critically, I start to outline things that are crazy. Like right here too, it's even happening. I don't outline it explicitly. Here, down here, like this. Like what the... We gonna talk about these kind of things? It's got an opening too. A little opening here. It's incredible. I don't know what to make of that. But it's got a center with this structure, which I guess I just drew over already. I was trying not to draw over anything until it was visible on screen. I guess I drew over this right away. But whatever. Severed Madagascar away, so Madagascar gets kind of pushed away and brought down in this current down the coastline. It's just pushed away, but not completely away, because it was held against India at the time, I believe. Pretty sure. Not that focused on Madagascar. It seems pretty relevant to the things I've been researching to probably get onto that thought train, but I'm not sure what to think about it besides just that it was adjacent and just to look at its geology in a more close inspection than I have. Currents flowed into southern South America. Noticeably, they do this. Like they pretty much wrap around and go back that way. So there's probably, let's go over to Africa, like over here, like a spiral current here that was occurring between Africa, where it's coming down the coastline of Africa, across into South America, but then back up this way and across, and it's just kind of some zone where it's just cycling like that seems to have been happening just based on here. Okay. Other currents went through Antarctica. Which I put a little question mark because this just is not enough data. I would like to have something to say about Antarctica, and it is a somewhat educated guess to just assume that there's nothing that would materially change the outcome of the interpretation of the currents based on the lacking data, but just based off of the seafloor. Like that's why I drew these lines. Be like, yeah, it's right from here. Like we can see there's an inlet here, and so it was from here. So I'm just gonna draw it there, even though the data is not really that present. And then I put a little question mark, and then I just and then Australia, and then from Antarctica under Australia, which was here. Then this is the current kind of breaking out from the sides. That's what I was trying to draw with a different color. It's maybe not the best. Meanwhile, another current, so back to, from these things, the spirals, this current that I just kind of drew initially, some sidelines, another current squeezed beneath Australia, which is down over this way. I didn't explicitly say that. It maybe doesn't quite make sense. Like, where's Australia? Related to the Mariana Trench. We just pass on through the Mariana Trench. Another place I casually explain. Add some, like, degree of explanation to substantial. Just like, hey, did you notice that these lines from all the way over here trace directly to the Mariana Trench? Which runs into Australia. So this is where we're going to start to get to converging currents. I'm proud of this part. I'm like this going forward. The rest of this, I'm so proud of it. I know people are like, what the fuck? And I've zoomed in. I like really tried to etch this outline to all of the like components to just show, dude, it's present. I was thinking, I'm not completely sure if this is actually where the Mariana Trench was. It may have been this side, but I'm pretty sure the upper portion is what holds this boundary, so I think it was this side, and this current starts to go through this way over here, creating this side, and that's why this side is like carved into like this. A spherical decay ammonite created by currents. Here's this. A spherical decay product was released from the nucleus. The ball of material moved in the currents. Honestly, I put this in, but I'm not completely sure about where the ball is. Like, I'm pretty sure this happened, but whether or not it was a ball then, or if it was just like debris from here that got swept over here and then became a ball here, I'm not sure. Not sure. It may be that over here it was still just like... Odds are, just like my thoughts, because it's pretty much a decay product. Like I said, this is an ammonite structure, which is really like an atom that physically went through a radioactive decay sequence that spiraled out physically over here, actually, and then it emitted a particle, like they do, like a decay sequence does. It emitted a nucleus of a system, and it was like a particle, but like a molten particle, and then it went out like a quasar practically, and then it hit a wall where it just lodged in the currents going on. This big old sphere, molten sphere, lodged in the currents. The only issue with this is how does it move up here before 66 million years? Like, it really has to be in the position of the beginning of the Hawaiian seamount chain by around 82 million years, according to radiometric dating, is when the first seamount occurred. So it really needs to start moving up there. So I'm not completely sure if like it just kind of sent material over here and then this ejected a sphere and like it was pinched in the currents by a current, or it was pinched by currents in South America. So this current coming over this way, this current coming this way, and South America, which was sitting generally here, pinched in the current, and then not directly adjacent necessarily, but like adjacent enough where it held a boundary for the currents over here so that they swirled here, creating like a back pressure on this side of the particle to just kind of hold it there. Inducing a field and differentiation of material, which I'd point out because this system causes is basically it's supernovas and ejects material throughout the Pacific Ring of gold deposits because it's supernovas, because it differentiated material by these currents. And then so that's why I drew here. There's these little lines. I tried to like slowly etch them out. Let's go back to here. That, mind you, are related to this, which the Yucatan Peninsula and where is that? That other southern country. I don't know. Let's look it up. Oh, on my phone, I was looking at Alaska. It's Honduras. Okay, Honduras. Basically, between Honduras and the Yucatan Peninsula is this segment that is being severed as the two, which were one, get split down the middle by this process involving this particle system ejecting material that then basically hits resistance and then branches sideways and goes forward simultaneously, I believe, because that's how the pressures would work, it seems, if they're going, because it seems like this is an actual legitimate thing in the data that's present. It's this very straight line going all the way up here and even past here the screen, and then over here and over here to each of these things up to them. So like some kind of decay process aspects literally present in this process here. Okay. So that's what's going on here. I'm trying to just leave space, just kind of like, why is that there? Because I'm gonna draw over top it in a second. Inducing a field and differentiation of materials. And then this, though, is going up the coastline. Accreted in jets. Ejected in jets, accreted to Western North America. So now we're getting kind of into Baja, BC, and this place. Right. I found it. So there's a current from over here at the time is where this appears to have been happening at the Galapagos hotspot, relatively speaking. Maybe it's here or even here, I'm not sure. But essentially it sent a beam that physically went up this way, but it also branched sideways and up into these and caused that like dividing thing. Up through Baja, California. Through here. Through the Gulf of California, I guess. Where this one goes over to here. So like through Baja, California is really going up, like through here even, through this dragon thing, past it. and subtly up here. I think it even I drew it. I drew it going up here, although it's pretty much gone in the data here, so it could be argued that it doesn't happen at that point. But however, it does still seem like Hawaii managed to get up here. It might also have managed to actually get up here even. But in so doing, it was physically going this way through the Gulf of California and then out through here. Or through Hawaii might have went through here though. Straight up rolled through here. Doing, 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 and then rolled down here. Kind of bouncing through. Bouncing down into the mantle or something. I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not sure. Something. Okay, so this place though, before I go. So imagine this current coming up this coastline here. And then it doesn't necessarily just go straight, like according to the map vision, because it's a smaller globe and it's a growing globe. And it's a round globe, I'm not sure. It may have been initially going more like up this way to here, and then as the Earth expanded, it then went up like past this point here, like generally speaking, like a current that went up this way to here and created kind of this region it just pushed in. And then another region it just kind of pushed in a boundary too. But especially like generally going up here, maybe to like here at like a certain peak, which maybe was physically kind of more over there. And this was, I'm not sure. Just new. Filled in the gaps as it expanded, I don't know. With some massive flows. There's definitely fields up here that are of interest. Like fields, like I was just talking about, kind of fields. Like this kind of thing. Things of interest that are like, I didn't look very much. So in the number 1918, John Reeves, the Boneyard, Alaska, from the Boneyards, Alaska, in the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which I was listening to, they were discussing, he's around here, basically around here, I believe. Let me make sure. Yeah, Fairbanks. Yeah, oh no, here. This one. Near Gold Dredgy, like in this region. In this region, there's just a fuck ton of fossils of what sounds to be just also like rewriting science kind of fossils. Like, why are there so many fossils here? Damn. Oh my god, look at that. What? Oh my god. It's fucking huge, dude. A joint that is like 2 feet tall. That's incredible. So, if this system right here involves perhaps water atop it as well, flowing, that's like a heavy current, like I was just saying, because of the heat exchange, just causing it to just evaporate and then downpour and just cycle the heat to transport the heat to the space practically, to just get the heat from the region. Maybe though it's flowing like in this kind of thing too, and it's physically being like transporting maybe above the surface of the water, or like in the water, below the water is maybe like more dense things, like the materials being transported. I don't know. But maybe like the currents in North America that flowed like throughout this entire region. This entire region seemingly just got like boiled and porous, just made porous from the process, and just huge novas occurring within them that just gouged out regions just like systematically everywhere throughout it. And then it seemingly flowed down through here significantly, like this whole width, as well as like just this whole region, and all sorts of stuff where water was just flowing enough to make a wide river here. That probably, like, if things weren't expecting torrential downpours so massive that they got swept away in the currents, then they would probably get swept away in the currents, like animals, especially. So maybe they got swept away in the currents, and then they were in the currents, just getting projected in a jet stream through this region, through here, up into here, and just as far as possible in the waters, just getting transported. And then it's not clear, like, this is pretty much where they are though, like right here. So coming in through this region, through up here to here. It's not clear why, of course. I was hoping it would make more immediate sense why his location is so packed full of them. My guess is they're much more prolific in certain like nuclei, where they've been focusedly concentrated by the currents, which is reminiscent of in Kentucky, is it? I can't remember which state has a dinosaur, like, just in ridiculous quantities. Same process, though. It's a little odd that the timing is so different. I'm not quite sure what makes it so different. Unless it's literally dinosaurs from the Hollow Earth. Where, like, the Outer Earth had this stuff that got deposited here was the Outer Earth, where the humans were. And the Inner Earth that had dinosaurs. Uh, hey, you never know. Got swept out to the outside too, and at least in part. And so that's why we see dinosaurs looking so old. I don't know. I don't know why we're able to find dinosaur fossils, but not like full-blown mammoth equivalent type stuff, because what I'm saying has validity. So I'm not sure why we're not able to, although I've seen soft tissue in dinosaurs. I've seen it, not like concluded, not conclusively, like I know they were like conclusively though. They weren't lying. They got the tissue off of a fossil of a dinosaur, and it was malleable, and they were moving like it wasn't. It looked decayed and not like recent tissue. Okay. I'm not sure why, though. It does kind of make sense that there's a possibility of some kind of weird thing going on with the inner Earth. Mount Girnar was within the Earth and is Mount Meru. So it's possible that other things, like living things, even were transported in the currents. I know people don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm just gonna say it and you guys can figure it out later. Other me's, younger and more vibrant, more able to just. Me, I'm like at the. Like, how much longer can I really do this? Okay, so I want to talk about some features that I noticed. So generally speaking, here's this thing, but if we keep like shoving in, here's another thing, like kind of here, something of that nature maybe. Keep shoving in, right? Here's another thing right here, a little further in, kind of related down here maybe. Right through here. Maybe two here, through here. Like, I don't want to follow rivers exactly because it seems like it would just be more atop things pretty substantially. Although it's possible that it is transported that kind of way. But maybe through here. It's just kind of like how it maybe, but then I guess it would have gone this way. Like if it. Like this is a low valley. Looks like pretty low-lying area, relatively speaking, just by the terrain. Like that's pretty bumpy, relatively. It's over here. It definitely has this wall, so like if anything came up this way and just went kind of straight here across, like separated out of the stream. uh, Maybe even like from here to this point, like this width up here has this kind of like general region where there's like the pressure pretty much has gone that much further. It also seems to have gone to here, so I'm going to talk about that end here. Like these kind of points. I'm immediately, I'm like, are those related? Like, would we find them other places? Looking at features, this is interesting. Is that considered a crater? Lake Louise. Lake Louise, Alaska. Almost. Crater. I mean, it's not a crater, but I'm just curious if it's considered a crater. This name is very familiar. I don't know why. Okay, so current through here, generally to this region and generally to this region does seem feasible. And maybe they kind of generally pinched like here to like a point and branched off, but to a point. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this right here, though, looks real low-lying terrain. It's got a shallogram type of feature like I was shown in that picture before. Like, don't remember this? Remember these things? Remember that kind of thing going on? Like, it's got that kind of thing going on. Suggestive that there's energy going to this region. I mean, this map might make more sense for why he's got so many over here. Because there's this like this divide. Oh my god. Let's see, let's look. Essentially, like if it's generally coming this way from this region up to this boundary, like so like coming up through here especially. I know it's backwards probably. It is. I know it's backwards, but this way. And then generally following terrain still. So, like, generally it went this way. That's probably why there's so many currents. Because it's literally so many inlets to the current that they weren't actually one current. There were many. And so they literally are many currents. Because it was caused by many currents flowing in this way that then combined and now still have like a truly separate dividing nature in the way they flow that continues to this day like that. Okay, so this maybe went in here though, up through here. I'm just thinking it generally like went past this boundary to here and coupled with this coming this way, brought them up here, along this wall, up this way, past this region. Oh yeah, past this region too, up into here. And then up this way. And maybe they kind of got stuck here. Just where the water went, like kind of where the water ends. Oh. Yeah, they gotta be all over this place, though. Like, is no one else looking? They're just not finding it in any of this. Like here. This one. I think they all, like, he was talking about other creeks in the region. This right here is very reminiscent of Mount Grenard. Let's pull up a second map. I don't know. Grenard. This. Here there's a current that went this way and went around here and then came up this way and divided. One went this way, one went this way, making this lower elevation region, basically. So maybe a current went this way and a current went this way? I don't know. This way. Or is this just human, like pure human, making it look that way? And it's probably just based on the terrain to a point where we've magnified it. Crazy. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Gold stream. Gold stream. Dear God, there's just gold in this lands. Oh, we got currents here we can look at too. Wow, that's cool. So if we follow them this way, they do seem to be kind of going pretty straight through here. Maybe hitting resistance. Hard to say with that coloration. Coming in this way and then hitting resistance. What in the... Whoa. Just snow, maybe. That's quite circular. It's quite the circular feature here. Right there. Oh, this is what I'm thinking. It's possible there was a current coming this way. Was there a current of water cycling atop the entire planet? If it was going this way. For sure it's going this way. Draining out here. Maybe it came up this way and deflected off here. This way. I was noticing, like, this continues here, kind of up here, but then even if we look here, like the tooth type thing, maybe down here, and just kind of looking to see, maybe here. Unclear if it would be over there, but I just figured down here, kind of here, down here maybe. Two generally to here, which is kind of interesting if that's going on, or down this way and turning this way, going up this way maybe. I don't know. It's possible that this current that went up this way had a lot more like lingering global like turning effects as it I don't know, did something. Like but so if this is going up this way, there's a current coming down this way through this width beneath the crust at least. There's a current going beneath the crust here, so I wonder if because there's a current going beneath the crust here, there's also a current of water in this region because it's in the region especially that like this water goes up here maybe and then starts to flow down this way, so there's water going this way atop the surface, and then there's this jet going this way atop the surface of water, inclusive of water that's coming this way, that then and material and all sorts of things, but water is all going this way, that then comes up here and just collides and sort of creates a location around here maybe. I'm just all that, I just said that just so that I could look for that kind of thing. See if it's present. There's certainly a chakra here. Triple chakra. Single chakra, according to that. Kind of its own, maybe double chakra here, I don't know. Underneath, but it is kind of like a bit of more of a single chakra above, I guess. That one there, it protrudes out too, connects through here energetically. I don't know, just not to make that a thing, but it is a thing, so I'm gonna look at it. Boom. This maybe was like another chakra maybe over here then. No. Wishful thinking. It's all making sense now, you fuckers. You other me's. I mean... Oh no, I am you. I see it now. Meaning, oops, just being an ass to myself in the future. All great. And in the past, both. Not to make it like, you are my future, I am your future. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter. This is one of the things I really found it, like, oh. Okay, back here. Here's that current coming up this way, pushing through Baja California up to the whole British Columbia, Alaska at the peak, shoving material inclusive of remains into that region. And while that's happening, there's a cross current coming across from the mantle puncture hole through this way, across, and then through right here. As the Earth starts to expand, it starts to go through this way. And then it runs into this other current going here. And so it divides, goes down and up, and rejoins itself here, where it then divides and goes up and down, and then up and down, so that this current cuts across like that. And so I drew it doing that. Like, oh, I was drawing this, I put this map, and I was like, wait a minute. When I draw this current cutting across, a cross current from the mantle puncture hole, which then I took out the map right then when it reaches here, just so we can see what's going on. This current that I trace, continue to trace here. I mean, this is after the Earth starts to expand, so it's kind of almost like related to it in some way, it seems. Some like pushing off pivot point that's related to like where North America, this, oh, look at that Yellowstone, like Yellowstone, it's because I'm not doing this exact, like, the map. It's quite possible that this maybe actually focuses at Bighorn Basin, maybe, or Bighorn Mountain, I mean, which is physically positioned here. This is Bighorn Mountain here, the underbelly of it in the magnetic anomaly map, which is the focal point of this whole thing here. Whereas right here is Yellowstone. So one of those, if not both, are being fed by this current coming from the mantle puncture hole, dividing, going upward and downward, up, down, and then rippling through the western boundary of North America. Cool. That was one of the things I realized when making this. Okay, this is an hour and 20 minutes. I've barely talked about this. I hope I shed some light on it by just talking about the things I was talking about and demonstrating they're related to this Baja BC. Like, how did all these fossils get there? Our bones. Let's just watch the rest. Let's just watch it. 6 minutes. How long could it possibly take me? The northward deflected current ran into resistance and was focused along a channel forming island arcs. So it goes along a focused channel, does kind of like this thing, where it overlaps, which then pushes out boundaries, one side producing an island arc, the other side basically taking material and making an island arc. I don't know if that made sense. Pardon my last statement, it may have been not exactly correct. Okay. And shaping it, so pushing forth a wave on which the crust rode and shaping it. So down here doesn't, this, I kind of just put that there because it's in the terrain. It's not actually quite in the data of the magnetic anomaly map, but this curvature here is in the terrain, and this curvature here which kind of goes like this, more so the other side having the curvature of bending back. So people might find that a little offensive, but it's in the actual terrain above. Although I was really trying to follow the magnetic anomaly lines, and that was not. So that was kind of me adding a little detail that's in the terrain above. Alright. Like same goes for this spots where it's kind of like, I was thinking maybe it even got some like lift, so it just, or like separation, like the beam, like it's just like a straight beam that literally is on a curved surface, so it goes straight. So like at some point it like physically causes undetectability on the surface below of this moving sphere, because where's this moving sphere? Sphere was ejected along the main decay channel where it lodged until currents relented. I know, maybe a little unreasonable. I like how I drew those currents. A portion of the current from the mantle puncture hole also flowed north. So this is where this this segment matters right here, which I unfortunately don't like uncover again. So that's why I went back. This portion is going to come into play. You'll see me draw it, so keep it in mind. Remember this current blue going this way, and then this kind of anomalous thing within there. Portion of them, so this went up this way. It didn't just go this way, it also went this way. But was pushed back by these currents. I probably should have flipped these and just put this text here and then this text here, but whatever. Because it's talking about the opposite current. This formed a container, so it formed a container that's filled and burst repetitively. I'm not sure about the repetitively start part, maybe on different scales repetitively, maybe only once on a large scale, unclear. It seems plausible that it was only once on a large scale and that it was multiple times on a small scale because of the terrain that we're about to look at. Influence the terrain above, creating the vibrations of the Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau. There's one that goes over here and goes way past, like way up here even. I'm not sure how far I drew. This one goes up here. This one here kind of goes the whole way across with like an eyeball here. Let's pause and look at the Himalayas, or the Tibetan Plateau. Here, circle, like there's rings of lakes, ring. Not defined completely, because there's probably not exactly rings that's going on, but there's some kind of structure that's maybe more related to that there's a current, so they're more like V-shaped. It looks like it's more V-shaped structures like this. I've seen a circle though, like here. I was just gonna show it, but now I'm not seeing it. Here. I wonder if it's just more spirally. Galactic dots. It's more like galactic dots. Okay. Back to this. As pressure built up under continental crust, purple, which is pretty much like 150, 140, 130, 120, 110. Space began to open between crust until the crust broke apart and magma filled the space, and the Earth expanded to a new radius. As the crust of the Earth became occupied with undercurrents, the mantle puncture hole began to emit a current through the crust as the deck entraps. I don't know what I'm going to end up with when I do this kind of thing. Like, I just start drawing. Like, I just wrote Ancient Dwarka. That was like, was attacked by a vortex weapon. Alright, we all knew I was going to say that. Alright. But then I didn't know that I would just start making some fire demonstration of like the concepts that I'm trying to convey. I know people are like, that's nonsense, blah blah blah. Besides the point, but the concept is conveyed quite well here. Okay. A vortex storm arose, blanketing the area with billowing dust. It moved from Dwarka and grew. So like it moved over here and just kind of messed this area up. It's like, yeah, enjoy being swampy now. Not sure if it did it immediately or if it's more because it's just the outlet of this overall region. So I grew it definitely sat here because this structure is like directionally much more related to this position than this position, but it sat here too, which fed ether through the crust. Ether through the crust. I'm so proud of this ether through the crust animation. Puncturing the mantle and displacing it. Boom, here's the mantle puncture hole. Remember that? Yeah, that one right there is right there. Here's where it is, right here. Here's that storm. Alright, let's go on. The vortex sat feeding space into Earth as magma flowed below the crust. As undercurrents filled the Earth, the storm moved and participated in the process. So it moves over here and then it starts carving this out. Repetitively stabilize positionally and influence the terrain. And multiple times I use the different spellings of terrain. I still don't know after reading it, the definitions. I'm like, I still don't know which one's which. Whatever. Its motions were initially slow. Like the tortoise it was shaping. Thanks. I've mentioned to her I got that from in the past. Sorry, I cannot it right now. Some YouTube video. Someone, sorry, lecture about Dwarka in about this region, Ran of Kutch. Oops. Like the tortoise was shaping, but pressures forced magma to the surface. This one I didn't do well because I just kind of put the next ones in simultaneously. This one, I really should have put a space here, but I was being lazy because I had to make these frames over and over. But then, like, later on, I just did it so much that I was actually putting in the copy pasting the spiral to make the motion to like account for space of time that I probably should have done for this. Okay. But the storm moved atop its outlet conduit over here and then past the shell of the tortoise. So past it, which is why it's shaped like that, but which is when, boom, shit, which I drew it like that. So I drew it, I didn't say it, where it began to direct basalt flows above and below the crust. Initially, they flowed across the bird head of Saurashtra, where material amassed as a boundary, just like in North America. So my thoughts are that this whole region just physically was not there. It was more like this. Generally speaking, it was more continental crust basement, like down here. It was down there. It was just not elevated to what would have been above the ocean floor, if not for the Deccan traps flowing material out to this region. But then how it occurred was this storm physically flowed out an arc that then produced an actual polygonal boundary. I'm not completely sure about this, whether or not there pre-existed a more something that didn't require the Deccan traps to flow atop it to be above sea level, but something tells me just because of the shape of this boundary here that it was just an arc like this that made the shape. So pretty much the shape of the whole region was shaped by this current. So it probably was just the current making it in a lower elevation region as part of the process, where it just like emitted into water though. And formed a large mound opposite to the storm. So there's this mound storm. First of all, there's this boundary, and then the current keeps flowing, so it produces a mound opposite to the storm. Back pressures from the region cause the currents to redirect. So this region produces a back pressure on the current flowing across, which then deflects it over here, carving through the side. And then the storm repositions. Basaltic currents flowed according to pressures, which I just drew what they did, which I'm about to draw again. The storm induced currents from northern Saurashtrian boundaries. I guess you can't read everything on the screen. Maybe I should move over here. Current swirled at Alec Hills, which is right here, and it induced a backstop at Barda Hill, or Hills, I think it's Hill, which is here, by this swirling current eddy. And then basalt currents return through the boundary wall here, back through it. And pressure caused the storm to move southward once more as currents focus Gurnar. So I think I missed one. Basically that the currents return to Gurnar, and then just generally fill this region. So like this current goes up this way to about this boundary, and then these currents generally go to this boundary. So anything coming this way generally just goes that way. Or it's just held up kind of thing. It's just kind of like, dude, well, there just wasn't that much current. It may be that in some stretch of this, the storm is not so much participating in the emissions of the basalt as much as the shaping of the emissions. I'm not sure. Although the later part of the Deccan traps in actual mainland India is probably suggestive that there was basalt throughout it all flowing relative to the storm. Okay. Pressures cause the storm to move southward once more as currents focus Gurnar. So then it moves down here, seemingly stopping around this region before this boundary. The storm briefly stopped at Resistance. I said of Resistance of Cho'Gath and Chamarti Hills, at least indirectly. It's certainly, these are listed as plutonic complexes in the region, so I look at them as something of note to a point where they probably participated in the process of the storm. I kind of just said that it stopped at the resistance of them. which I think is generally true, but it's not their resistance as much as like undercurrent. Like it's passing boundaries, which I'll be talking about in a second. It's passing physical boundaries here. So maybe more about like it was stuck here, just like it went to here, and then the current went through here up through this hole here. Out this way. Flowing across. I'm not... Certainly from here, I'm not completely sure. It's possible the storm itself just like sat here and physically took material and then moved over and then didn't even need to be in contact with this. It just had material, but I'm pretty sure it just was in contact because it's definitely feeding. Okay, let's go back to my video. No, before I go just spitballing. Then it passed resistance and discharged. I know, we all think I'm spitballing. The region acted as a conduit of energy exchange. Gurnar was shaped by vortices in the currents. So this I was pretty proud of. I mean, it's not the best, like right here, this moment in time, it doesn't really match. But I've talked about this enough that I just kind of put it in there. This one, sorry, I tried to make them take the shapes and so on, but anyway, vortices induced fractional crystallization and differentiated rocks of Gurnar, so I just kind of inserted this here, pretty much. Hey, by the way. Meanwhile, under the surface, currents were induced at angles. So now we're going from the storm back to the initial underlying current that was flowing, that I just kind of brought in initially. Now we're going back to it. So then it flowed out that way, and then it flowed in and just filled pressure up here. But then the pressures forced the storm to physically move from... Again, I'm just following. I don't make it clear, and like if you're reading the words I'm writing here, you're not gonna notice the storm move. See, it moves. It's here. La la la, la la la, and then it moves to here. Weirdly too, it moved up here. I think I moved it up to that one spot and then to here, to like indicate that it moved from here to here to here, but quickly stopping there and then to there. So then we're sitting here, which is right there, so it's kind of interesting. Where currents flowed atop Sarastra again, so I just redrew it here. But then, importantly, and this is maybe a little bit of a mess up here. Where I didn't draw this, like, make this clear. Because right here, this is going to become clear. That this, I'm trying to associate with... like a current went from this way, but it also went this way to fill this region that was low pressure relatively, because its currents hadn't really flowed in there that much, maybe to a degree, but like the direct pressure hadn't gotten in until the storm moved over here and directed it in. And so it created this like wedge structure over here at this angle. I am kind of just based on the angles make sense. Like it's going from here, from the mantle puncture hole with it, which is here, to here, and then down here at this angle, which is, I believe, Let's just measure it. I believe it's 135 degrees. Let's say like there to like that direction. Yeah, I mean 135 degrees, which then leaves it looks, I mean, it's a big, because it's a hard on the Earth. Here's 90 degrees. Because the Earth is round, it's kind of possible this more so bends in there. And then at another point it's here and going to here, which I put to this one. That's not good. That's not quite good, but that's okay. Here to Gurnar. That's pretty good though. Okay. So then that formed that structure. I think there's also some kind of spiraling going on here. So if we look over here at this, kind of just fans out from here. It's almost like this current came across and just hit some kind of node that it spiraled out from, or created a node, maybe come from crossing currents with maybe from over here. Maybe there was a current flowing across that was actually flowing across this way and just held this barrier down here. That makes more sense. This just added to it and came across and interacted with it. Probably also created this, maybe from that general location as well. When it was at the neck. I didn't mention that one. Then it just kind of moves around. Moves around. Does those things I just talked about already because I decided that I should talk about it instead of just watching me talk about it. When it reached this place, it discharged this cause above the surface. So noticeably the first ones, that was something important. These angles were below the surface of the crust. But then once it got here, it discharges again above the surface, largely above the surface, which then goes across and fans out like that, fills that pressure, and then it seemingly finds like valves into other regions or entry points where it overcomes a pressure and then just enters like a basin and fills the basin. And then that fills, and then another entry point that then fills the basin. Meanwhile, that particle we were talking about, so the Western Pacific broke from North America, so I just slide that North America away, which is a little confusing maybe. As currents formed the Eastern Pacific, the sphere rolled back. Basically, the sphere was only stably in position until currents relented. And then it starts to roll, depositing first its outer shell. I know how ridiculous people think this is. And deflecting from stronger currents. Although maybe more just from a hill. I really like hitting resistance. Maybe not immediately, like it's going up a hill. Or up a hill, up a hill, up a hill, up a hill. And then it just kind of like boing, resist. Because it really bends pretty abruptly. To be just kind of up it. turning, but because it's so massive, maybe the way it just like interacts has that kind of more pixelated turning. Like moving straight until it hits like resistance and it just bounces, kind of like that gold foil experiment. The inner surface of the Hawaiian Emperor Seamount sphere is now the surface of the Hawaiian Islands. The sphere's hard shell stored molten magma, which is still contained as Mauna Loa's magma. Here is this image. Enjoy. And just like the Earth, the currents that induce features on the Hawaiian sphere can be traced. Underground science. This was just accidental. I was like, that looks pretty cool. Literally just left it like that. Like, that looks pretty cool, just like that. I know people don't like me and my work, but that's cool. So much information on this if people actually look at it. Also, that 4 is a chakra. Chakras everywhere. Alright, guys, I made it through. Peace. Or, did I say everything? I think that's what I have to say about this, honestly. That location, that's what happened. That's how those fossils got there. Why there exactly? I guess I didn't have that much to add in terms of exactly why there. Because the same thing could be said about a lot of the general region. Like, if there were fossils here, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe like here. Like, if there were fossils here. But, oh, well, that makes sense. There's current here, there's current here. If we look around, if we look over here, this current comes in here, goes this way, it goes up here. And then it goes in through these ones, goes up here, and brings fossils here, and we did it. I mean, they're over here, though. But, I mean, I could do the same thing that I did already over here to that. But, I mean, maybe they are in the places, maybe not here. But, like, more... just mining. I'm sure they're elsewhere. Like, there's no way they're on just 5 acres. There's no way. They did get transported, so there's probably all sorts of things there. It's very odd that there's just... they're just right there. He also mentioned this place over here, which I noticed around it, if it's right here, just all the ammonite type things I've been looking at, just the curvature of this wrapping around and then coming in this way. And just here in general, maybe out to here, out to here, out to here. It's possible there's ammonite type of features in the area. I don't know if they'd be associated with, I don't know what, he said there's a dredge here, his daughter's dredge, he was saying. Pardon me, I feel bad just to even talk about these kinds of things in specific locations, but it's just the geology, man. The truth, the science, for the science. Sorry, for the science, he says. This looks kind of like something happened that way. Oh, there's that arcing is happening right there. There, that I was just talking about over here. all the way down the coastline, creating these island arcs. This is happening right here. Seemingly right there too. Some kind of X marks a spot kind of spot here. Maybe not. It's visible from further away, like this here. I'm just wondering if like this was over here and it slid out and a support structure slid out below it to make it slide out in essence, maybe. It was just positioned differently? I don't know. This region is very complex. It's like the most complex. What happened? Beam going this way, beam going this way. Going up here, and then it's crossing this one. So maybe it's actually two currents going like this that are going like... I'm flying, Ma. I almost feel like there was a current going this way. Could this have been like up here and like the current around here? Went this way, this way, this way, around this thing, and then around here, and then into here. Maybe... maybe they like bowed out this region from over here, like it was going this way. Then it kind of ballooned out and brought that region with it. Which maybe was occurring over here. I don't know, it just seems like an arm of like a Mega Man current flowing thing. Mega Man. Alright guys, I would like to add more thoughts to this before I stop, but like specifics, My thoughts was anywhere that things could lodge and swirl seemed to make sense. That's especially related to this boundary going in this way, it seems. This direction, generally speaking, looks like they ended up there, but probably not only there. Like, he's probably like the main person looking, who is in an actual successful to find location. Like, there are probably other people looking who are finding them, but there's definitely other people finding them, but not to the same scale. Although, pardon me if I'm not quite clear on the details. This really, it does look like a freaking... What happened here? Like, did the Hawaiian sphere go there? Go up here? Go this way? Go through here. Hit here, hit here. And then kind of go out through this way. Which was over here, maybe? And end up coming out here. Oh my god, that would just be so cool. It would just be so cool, guys. I mean, it was a sphere. I got that set. You guys aren't gonna... I know people are like, what in the fuck? Aren't gonna, like, get that undone. That's a thing that the future will be aware of. It's just like the expanding Earth. It just fits. If it fits, you mustn't... You must quit. If it fits, you must quit. Like, denying that it fits. Oh. I don't know. Let's see. What's going on here? It's got that, like, porosity going on. Pretty heavy. What do you mean, porosity? Holy fuck. It doesn't even look real. Guys, are we just not looking? Like, there's so much that is, like, not... Holy... Like, the shapes that need accounted for, we're just ignoring them or just not looking. I don't know. I don't think people are looking. I just don't think people are actually looking that closely. Like, they're looking really closely in person, but they're not looking at, like, Google Maps that closely. To, like, really be like, what's going on with all these spots that are certainly, like, yes, some of them I'm probably not aware of, have some documentation of, but, like, some of them, there's no fucking way. This, that. Like, what if this sphere came out right there? And along here. Right there. But it was actually right there. Through here. Like, it actually ended up going through here. Through here. Through here. Hitting this and rolling off it. Coming down this way. Or maybe hitting here. Like this feature, I know that's just the Siberian Traps region. Is it? Maybe it's not. No, that's over here. Oh my god. Like the way there's boundaries that are conjoined terrains. It's almost like how it once was. Like this is pretty much what happened. The currents generally preferentially went to locations like that and broke these parts apart. And then now we have 7 continents. Okay, I gotta sleep. And that wasn't exactly right because these locations formed by the undercurrents mostly, but so that the previous ones may not have been even present at all like that, because I'm pretty sure it was much more conjoined where this just wasn't a thing. It just really was more just continuous in true appearance because it just didn't have that kind of thing going on. Alright, peace out.